off. Let's see if it works. Like, okay, I'm gonna assume it's recording, Brett. um, all right, so let's just hear from each of you as a year-end business meeting. Brett, what do you see as the progress? How would you bullet, key points of the progress in a year of 2023? What did we do? What do you feel good about? What did we accomplish? What have we set up? What's meaningful to you that we progressed on?
Thanks, Janet. I think the most important thing I heard there was the last sentence, the invitation to like what's meaningful progress to me. Um, I'm gonna focus on how I feel about the progress and the deeper convergences and where we're headed. And Janet, if you want to later ask me any specific questions about filming, like progress on those levels, like metrics levels, I'm happy to speak to that. But I think it would be more helpful if you ask questions or someone brings it up and then I can name it. Because what I'm most excited about, what's meaningful to me, relates to the Margaret Mead quote, which is never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. And without trying to sound overly cliche or simplistic, honestly, there's been a lot of progress on relationship building within our own community here, within this team. Like, you can't fake that. And maybe that's why a lot of startups fail and movements don't happen, because we don't cultivate, or we just always try to rush through something amazing happening to get to the project. But like, Led Zeppelin didn't happen that way. The Grateful Dead didn't that happen that way. Like, things are organic. And what I feel strongly confident in saying is that there's been progress. I'll use the word energetically for people that don't resonate with that. What I just mean is like evolution. There's been an evolution of people that I've noticed, including myself, expanding, integrating, learning to listen more, like learning to co-create, which is a term I use a lot, and what that really means. So just personally, I've seen like growth, which is important to me. Also in creating resilience for something like this to carry on, to make a Star Wars or to have an impact like Apple at the Apple company. Like, there's going to need to be resilience from core team or leadership or whatever word we want to use. So I've seen that on individual level. And then proportionally, you can see like as a collective or as a mission, as an evolutionary purpose of this movie and the movement, you can see like a pruning of people and purposes. So it's kind of being shaped like a bonsai tree in Karate Kid, right? What I feel is we've been doing that, like collectively, and all of us in our own personal work, and then as a team. And quite frankly, with rarely, with other than Janet and Calvin, which is awesome, putting in some money for some things, we've accomplished quite a lot actually. Like with 100 hours of footage, probably, like 40, 50 people interested in showing up. There's a lot of progress on that level too, but mostly like Janet has been amazing. Janet getting more aligned with her purpose in here and her passion, which has been part of the process, is super progressive. It's a big part of the progress, actually, because now she's much more to me in her groove, in her fast lane, which makes everything more effortless because we all want to be doing that, I think. So I'll come back if we do a second round, or if you want to poke me, Janet. But I'm
Yeah.
really being genuine, honestly. I know I could give more details, but the progress is so, and I feel great about it. Like, I feel like there's a flow happening, like a creative flow, and all the potentials we have around us, and amazing people like Marlene and Nadine here. And like when Nadine says we have to get it out, that message, like we now know so many amazing people, and we're on the precipice, of putting out a project that gives voice to thousands of people, not just one person that's had this experience. Because now this is 30 years after it happened to me and 40 after you, Janet. Like, it was bad enough when it happened to me 25 years ago. There was no momentum. Now I look around, I'm like, there's a million stories like Brett. There was only 10 when I was 25, to be honest. They
Mm.
were out there. But now, unfortunately, it became an epidemic. And I was a futurist for that too, right? Janet, we're futurists for that too, right? But anyway, there's a lot of great progress also with the relationships Janet's been making in New Jersey, which is super important to have that anchor there to be able to expand more globally. But we have everyone around the world, so yeah, lots of progress, really, to be honest.
That was a
I'm
great,
still here.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm still here, and my time's valuable. So that also is a way of explaining, like, if I care about this and I'm putting effort into it, like, then it means something, and or else I wouldn't be here.
Yes. So I'm going to bridge to Marlena in a moment. What was a real turning point was Brett, because I'm going to eventually get into everybody else's individual progress. You shifted from telling me about all your projects to focusing on what's going to take to support Janet and this project. And that made a difference. So the progress of you sorting and saying, I'm going to just stand by this woman who's leading this and leave all my other stuff on the side, was a big piece. So thank you for that. Marlena, this is fun because Brett just said his experience started at 25 too. And mine was. So now you're 25. You're only here on the team a few months. And so it's almost two-part. What do you see as progress since you started, and why are you here? Like, why are you even on the team?
Right. Well, I would say I'm here because I have lived experience going through the hell that it can be being systemically harmed, right, by the way we've created this image of what mental health is and what mental illness is and what spirituality or spiritual experiences are and should be, and what a delusion even is, and I've seen not just myself but so many other people harmed, and just broken, in the wrong way, like broken in a systemic harmful way. And I don't want to see that happen to more people. I want to see healing happen. I don't want to see people getting more broken, more hurt, more beaten down, disembodied, right? um, I'm here because I really care about this mission and I care about the people on it, and I see the passion that everyone has for this collective mission. It's struck each of us very individually on a personal level and stuck for many years, right? Like you guys were saying, this happened at around 25 for you guys, and it's still carrying forth over decades later, right? It's that important. It's that powerful that it can align your whole existence to something else so different because of this, right? And that is extremely important and powerful. And other people need to realize, like, this is not necessarily pathological. It does not necessarily mean this person is bad or wrong. They need support, maybe, or a space that is capable of understanding and supporting this experience so it could be transformative. And in turn, that transformation will then help that person, reflect onto the world and help others, right? We're all helping each other. We're all walking each other home.
Mm.
But in terms of the progress, I would like to say, like, I like Brett's use of the word co-creation. I use that word a lot too. And interdependence, I use that a lot too. We are co-creating this world, and it takes a lot of courage sometimes when the world wants to beat you down and say, you have no power, be this, do this, follow me, this is the way. To say no, fight back and say, I am my own person, and like, this experience was real and I felt this. And to just be a person is sometimes really hard in this world. And I've seen a lot of progress individually, and a lot of us, and myself, in really getting aligned to that passion and to that clear, focused image, and that even with differences in details or differences in various, like, outlooks, we can still come together and co-create a vision of the future and make this change. So I love seeing the synchronicities flowing together, everyone kind of, finding their own individual growth, as well as seeing how that fits in with the bigger picture.
So thank you, Marlena. Nadine, I think we met in September. So I guess it's a two-part question. What have you seen as progress since we just met? We did an introduction after your conference, but what do you see as progress, and why are you here on this project?
In terms of so I'm new obviously to this position of being in the team, but in terms of the progress, I would say you are the progress, Janet. In the time I've been speaking to you roughly every week since we first were talking online, and you bring this whole thing together. You've given the voice to people that don't have a voice, and I said this before, that this isn't going to work unless we enable people who don't feel that they can actually have their stories heard, but they're going to hear it through this documentary and your film. So without you, this wouldn't be happening right now. And the connections that you're still having in relation to your conferences, and particularly the American Psychiatric Association, these are big conversations that you're able to bring together and need to be had, because psychiatry, we can't have these conversations in isolation. Doctors have to be on board. Police officers who are involved in sectioning people, the drug industry who are fueling this to actually be an industry in itself. There's so many factors involved, and we are bringing the stories to the people, but it needs to be responded to by the people in power. So your role in connecting those individuals to us is going to be, to me, the beginning of the change, because stories aren't enough. We need a response from the people who are enabling this to continue. Yeah.
Boy, that's a powerful lead-in for me to go to the next step of, I'll go in very briefly, but specifics that are happening. Some of you know some of it, but we'll have it all detailed by December, and then where we go forward. There was a decision made back maybe a month or two ago, to just say, let's do boots on the ground. Let's make something happen in New Jersey and then replicate it around the United States and around the world. So that is what's happening. Every Tuesday night now, we meet with a coalition that mixes clergy from different religions with business people, with a president of a college, with, just a lived experience. And that's moving forward to establish a physical office base of operations at a university in New Jersey. So finally we have a physical office base that has academic credentialing behind it. Number two, that advanced with the whole 988, what we call our mental health emergency number. This college wants to serve as the base to influence that. And the progress is the conversations that happen got us out even of a paradigm thought process that says we have to influence the government or get near the government. The leader of the university said, no, let's, how do I say this? Let's do our own event to let the government and the people know. So we're going to do a 988 event with clergy, with academicians and lived experience and university professors to show what we would have proposed to the government. Because it was clear, we said, we're not going to wait for the government to hire us or allow us. We're going to do it from a university. That's hot off the press. That's just this week. So now we're not even bound by somebody's approval or the traditional, right? Number two, one of the clergy is going to give us an introduction to a pharmaceutical company. And the clergy said to me, I don't know why I was introduced a few months ago. Now I know, Janet, because we need that. Like, that's just amazing. That's just huge progress on the right connections start to, add more fuel to this. We are going to be able to report probably in the new year, what is the standard of care on emergency rooms and in a psychiatric ward for mental health. It does not exist. There's a standard of care for heart attack or a stomach ache or a headache, but there's no standard of care for mental health that includes the spiritual part. So that is being enacted, not enacted, defined. And it's independent of me running it. We have a collaboration who's leading that to propose to the government. So to have a standard of care is unprecedented for mental health. I believe we're going to get it, and it's going to be in the documentary. Crisis intervention teams. I know, Marlena, you've had a team called on you. I've had police called on me. Brett, I guess you have. So we are going to demonstrate a training program for their crisis intervention teams that includes a spiritual diagnosis or spiritual cultural, so that it's not immediately diagnosed as mental illness. Number two, we're building an interdenominational clergy faction in New Jersey, covers all religions. One, to get their involvement, but two, we want to get legislation that makes sure they are involved if somebody asks to call their clergy or their Native American shaman or their whoever, their Mother Earth person. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's got to get into legislation so that it doesn't get missed, right? Like, before you take me away, I want to call my shaman. And then we want to get a model holistic demonstration on a psychiatric ward, one floor, one hospital, of how holistic treatment works. That doesn't always require meds, but we want it to happen inside a state hospital. I think it's doable. That's not progress. It's just on the agenda. A few more points. So part of the relationship building, Brett, that we did is also collaborations with organizations. So we have two organizations, many, but one is a Mental Health America Association in New Jersey, who is going to do the training for clergy on intro to mental health. That just was agreed to yesterday. They're going to do intro orientation, Psych 101, for clergy in 2024. And they already know how to do it. They're doing it. And then the clergy are going to come to just get oriented so they don't have to run away from it. So that's the first part. Number two, we're going to do a clergy care, also by professionals, so that the clergy get their own respite, their own care, because clergy are mental health stressed. So we're going to add that piece. And then the third part is to just get clergy involved. So we're going to care for them in 2 steps first, and then we're going to ask and call them in. I'm going to say the last piece that is progress is Brian is not on here today, but he will be. We have a new producer, and I'm going to say he's the real deal. Brian Nito, you can take a look at, what he's done. But he is giving us pro bono for the rest of the year.
Wow.
He was moved by this whole project. And I almost need to let him say it himself. He's a high empath. He couldn't sleep the first night after I spent the day with him because he was so disturbed that this could happen. So we got a good guy, and he's very well versed to get us near Netflix or on the news, and video and edit. But he's going to give us pro bono for the next 6 weeks, which is like
incredible.
I was ready, to pay. But so all that. So that's it. That's, by example. We'll have other
That's
examples.
it. That's like 100% effort.
Yeah.
Like you're doing everything, Janet.
I'm not going to talk about bulldozers and hurricanes that came over our head this year, but that is progress. And since this is just practice, I'm going to go into, where are we going next year? And this might be shorter version because there's probably more prep. It's always good year end, year beginning. We will meet again as a whole global team in January. Where we're going next year is that we are going to be, I'm going to say, significantly funded. I'm meeting with some potential funders in December. And so I want to put that into next year, that we should have solidified some good funders. And so I'll start with that. Where are we going next year? Funding established so we can actually run this as the right kind of business and not do it out of our, little garage and bedrooms. Number two, Brian and I, Brett, you'll be very involved, and we're going to lay out a schedule of filming. And we were going to keep everything in New Jersey, but with good funding, we do want to do some trips to California, South Carolina, UK, over time, in various locations. So it literally is Netflix worthy, as the right kind. It's not like a little homegrown thing. We are very clear this is docuseries, not a documentary, not a one-time thing. It is a docuseries. It is going to coincide with current events. So we're going to be like, and Brett, I'm almost going to have you jump in next. It's going to be a live journalistic thing. Once we get the basics, the next series, it's just going to keep coming because we're going to build it on events. What else is happening, and collect it pretty quickly. And then the last piece I'll say before mentioning, leading to Brett, where are we going next year, is I'm working with some business friends on the side to bring my old consulting life back and say, we're going to do a very focused intent to do systemic change with all the organizations that are involved in mental health that has to do with legal, government, pharma, insurance, medicine, hospital. And that just feels fun and reasonable, that we can do consulting to change the way organizations do all of this. I haven't figured out a way to make it clear what that is, but it's more consulting. We just want to consult for the entire system. And Nadine, literally looking at laws, one that are not, there are laws that are not being adhered to, but then what are new laws? And then what are the laws in the States that the UK, or what's going on in the UK? Like now there's some global stuff. So we want to really get into the legal system as well as the medical and pharmaceutical. I think it's doable. I just do. So what do you see in 2024, Brett?
I see us getting our foot in the door in just the way you described, which is startup funding so we can act efficiently, optimally, and fun and impactfully and exponentially, right? So that's a massive, important thing. The consulting piece and just starting the docuseries in a more formalized way with the team and the abundance that to really, like you said, make it Netflix quality, and just in terms of access and look and feel and marketing and all that good stuff. So to me, that's right on bang, like where we're headed next year. And then of course, for me as a visionary side of it, without the practicals, like this is like for me, the age of Aquarius thing, like go time. This is about making our way. I say my way because it's part of my mission and I don't want to put it on other people. Like, think about what George Soros does in the US for politics, right? He puts billions of dollars into all that and it affects democracy and all that. Like, the mission is to find the George Soros is for mental health change, which is different than politics and investing. But to have hundreds of millions and billions of dollars means within 2 or 3 years, we can actually build out from the private sector kind of perspective, a decentralized infrastructure that we've been talking about, which makes a lot of things obsolete without confronting them in a mean or violent way. So that's to me where we're headed. It's utopia or bust, for me, as far as mental health change. And I'm just super grateful that I'm part of a team, which is really what I've been lacking my whole time in this mental health quest, where there's people who know how to do the things that I don't, or I'm not great at, and allow me to hold the space for this visionary. Like, no, we're not doing that. We're going further. We're pushing the envelope. And to be able to do that at the same time as putting the grapplings in the ground and get the actual startup capital and do that, like, I'm incomplete without that. And then, so that's what, but make no doubt, like, you know, when we get unleashed, I know when I can speak for myself, when I get unleashed with the right team and resources, like, this is going to go quick for me, because this has all been building up for all of us, and we all know what to do. And there's experts everywhere around the world that know how to make media. They know how to market. I've got a network of 200 people minimum who are the best in their class in anything from Circus du Soleil to Web3 architecture. Like, this is the time for me. So that's what's coming next year. Whatever first practical, elegant steps are, like, always accomplishing something and then laying the ground for the next one. That's what's happening next year. So yeah.
Excellent. I love the language of grappling irons. That was like, boom. That was like powerful, grappling irons. I'm taking that one. Nadine, I'm going to go to you next. You know, what, from what you see, feel, know about your own self, and then this project, what do you see for next year? Where do you picture some of this going?
It's like Brett said, it's exponential. And there's so much potential here. I don't see how anything can go wrong. It's just the building blocks are all in place. It's just a case of connecting everyone at the right time for it to just launch. So you've done so much of the groundwork, Janet, and you've got all the people, and there's even more people that could probably still share stories. There's an unlimited number of people that could be sharing here. It's just, when do you want to cut it off? Because it's just like a worldwide issue. This is a global issue. So there's nothing more like you could do at this stage. I feel like it's just a case of making it happen. It's going to happen next year. Even if it takes longer, it's 100% going to happen, because this is the way things have to something has to change. We can't keep doing the things that we've been doing in the past. It's not working. People are being harmed. So all the players that are involved can have a positive effect for themselves. Like we discussed privately, like how the pharma industry can still benefit from this change, because they can be seen as innovative, the friendly guys who are actually trying to help rather than destroy lives. They can still play a role here. Doctors can ensure that they're consulting with patients, and it's in terms of how they actually want to be treated. Who wouldn't want a doctor who listens? You know, it's part of their guidelines and in the statutory regulations that they have to do anyway. It's just making sure that everyone is doing what's right for the whole of the world to be just in peace. So it's just like, to me, there's no other. It's the biggest conversation that needs to be had in the world at this time.
Well, I'm going to build on that before Milena. Because this year started with 2 people in January and now is 42, it's probably double that, because I'm not even keeping count, and it's so global. We're going to make the news. There's no more waiting anymore. I absolutely do see us in the news. And it is local, it's national, it's global. And just telling the story of, you know, why are we connected to South Africa and the UK and Brazil and, you know, Alaska. I almost see news the fastest piece that's going to come out of what people don't know. And it's a service. And then that connects to all the other movement. So, I just see us, you know, I hear your voice, Nadine, on the news. And that to me is like the easiest lift. So anyway, I'm just going to add that when I start to see, we're talking to Egypt.
With
UK.
your posh London accent.
Yeah,
With your posh London accent. Yes,
I do love it. I do love it. And she's going to be a kick-ass lawyer. So Milena, what do you see? And I'm going to seed it with the piece we've talked about and why you're even, you know, a piece of why you're here. We want multi-generational. We want multicultural. and it's the younger generation we don't have much of. Very big on the 20-somethings, because that's when a spiritual emergency often happens, the spiritual growth happens, and also diagnosis happens. That is a big era, right? You've been there, Brad's been there, I've been there. So I see a younger generation, a 20-something, taking up a lead next year and really coalescing that lead. So I'll just start there if that's something you want to be a part of. And what else do you see for next year?
Right. Yeah, that's something that I see too. I know that there is a lot of kind of stepping up to the plate that the younger generation kind of has been doing collectively, but needs to do on this front, on the mental health front, and really kind of decolonializing and deconstructing all of this with all of our thinking, right? And going outside of the bounds of ordinary thinking into what is possible, what is true, what is good, and I feel a lot of impetus from the younger generation. A lot of people are in that breaking down stage right now. They're kind of in that madness stage. They're in that insanity stage. They're in that, oh my gosh, the world is insane and all of this is going on. And feeling the effects post-pandemic, or I don't want to say post-pandemic, but pandemic effects, right? And kind of like the age of Aquarius thing that Brett was saying, right? We are collectively changing a lot of things right now. A lot of things have come to light as a result of the pandemic, as a result of a lot of political things, as a result of technological exponential changes, right? And AI, all of that, right? The world is getting weirder and weirder, kind of like Terence McKenna or whatever would say, right? And through these layers of abstraction that a lot of the world sees, a lot of the disembodiment that it sees, I think it's really important that we have a really grounded source like this team that can see through that muddled mess and can say, we need to ground ourselves in making real change. We can't just say, oh, it's like all going crazy and like there's nothing we can do, and I think that's what's so important is we're saying there is something we can do and we are doing it. We are making those changes, and that is what I think will happen in 2024 is just getting grounded in more and more of those changes, especially opening eyes and opening hearts on a psychiatry level, on an academic level, just getting the word out and getting people, having this conversation. And I found a lot of people do actually kind of hold this idea that spiritual emergency is possible, but they themselves are like, it's going to be really hard to convince people, because of the way that systemically we have things set up. It's like set up to make you not convinced almost that this is even possible. So I really do see just more people kind of reaching more of a critical mass point almost, of more people just seeing and understanding this really intuitive, more natural way of looking at mental health and what our world can be and should be, like what is a utopia, and we can move towards that.
So I see, Marlena, you're coming up from South Carolina to New Jersey when we film. Nadine has already said she's going to buy a ticket to come to New Jersey, and Brett will be home from Egypt in New Jersey. So there are some very specific film days that are going to happen. So I'm going to end the stream here and just hopefully it did record, but